Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Photography Tips and Tricks, your show for tips, gear, inspiration, reviews, all sorts of things that are going to get your photography over to the next level. My name is RC, and this week we're actually going to kick it off a little bit with something a little different. We've got composite artist Glyn Dewis. He's a phenomenal portrait artist and creates a very signature look. He's got some tips on how to be able to take pictures of skies for those portraits that you're going to be making. Take a look.
Hi folks, I'm Glyn Dewis and I'm here on location in Clearwater, Florida, just getting some few elements for a composite I'm going to be doing. But while I'm here, I just thought I'd give you a quick tip about getting some extra shots while you're outside. Now, one of the things I like to do when I'm out and about is collecting pictures of sky. Rather than me buying them off stock sites, I'll generally take my own shots. So the one tip I have for you, when I used to do this kind of stuff, I would just get my camera, I'd lean back and take a shot into the sky right above me. But the problem with that is in the frame, the clouds are the same size throughout the whole frame. So when I put it into a picture, there's no element of depth, because what we need really is big clouds in the top of the frame, smaller clouds in the bottom, in the background. So it gives that element of depth. So all I'll generally do is, I'm going to be shooting in aperture priority mode. I'm on f11 and I'm going to bracket it so I've got a variety of exposures, and I'll kind of shoot across so that I fill my frame with big clouds in the top, small clouds in the bottom, so that I do get that depth. And all I can do is focus on something in the distance, reframe the shot, including the sky and the whole of my frame there, and just taking a few shots. And I'll do that again. And that's all I'll do, just to collect a few cloud pictures. That's all it is, nice and cheap. Every press of the shutter costs nothing. If you want to find out more about me, you can check out my class over at Kelby Training. But for now, it's over to the guys back in the studio.
I can't wait to do this again.
Welcome back, everybody. RC here for Photography Tips and Tricks. Now, guys, if you want to take a look at more information from Glyn Dewis and some amazing stuff that he's got, you want to make sure that you get this section right here. Over on the KelbyTraining.com website, he has a brand new class called Character Composite. So this is something that's going to take you start to finish on how to make all of that kind of stuff. He also has this great interview that he did called The Business Side of Glyn Dewis, Becoming a Successful Commercial Photographer. So this is kind of a one-on-one chat with our interviewer, Mia McCormick, who kind of takes him through the entire process of how he's gotten to where he is right now. It's a great, great watch. Make sure you take a look at those things. Now, over here on Google Plus, I had posted that we were recording a show, and Rich Robinson had said, you know what, he wanted to ask a question about how many frames it takes to make an HDR. So Rich, I figured I'd just kind of answer it live when we're working with this. This is my computer, right? So this is the setup that we have here, and I did this shot over at the Jefferson Hotel in Richmond, Virginia, right? And you'll notice that I have a bit of information inside of these frames. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'd love to be able to tell you that most of the stuff that I'm doing has a technical background when I'm working with HDR stuff. But fact of the matter is, I use a very, very dumb rule when it comes to what I'm going to shoot. The amount of pictures that I shoot in a specific area is largely dependent on how available that area is to me again. So let's say if I lived across the street from this. If I lived across the street from this, I probably would just try 3 shots and see what happens. If I live across the country from this, when I get to a location, I'm gonna shoot the snot out of it. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try to make as many pictures as I can. That said, on average, I shoot anywhere between 5 and 7 frames. And I always tend to shoot about a stop apart. Now, with doing all of that stuff, it helps because I think that there's a better transition from one picture to another picture. And truthfully, I'm not really all that concerned about whether or not I shoot 2 pictures more or 3 pictures more. It doesn't really make all that much sense to me. At the end of the day, I'm like, is the picture gonna be good? If I want it to be good, I'm gonna hedge as much as I can on making that good shot. So I tend to kind of be on the 5 to 7 frames, 5 to 7 frames of exposure. That would give me 3 stops underexposed and 3 stops overexposed on the shot. Now, in bright days, when I'm shooting outside and there's some element of sky that's involved, I'll tend to shoot either 7 or 9 frames. But if I get to a situation where I'm like, this shot's amazing, I'd love to tell you that there's a technical answer to this, but you know what? I'm just gonna switch it to as much as I can and I'm gonna take the shot. Here's the other benefit that you have when you do this. Let's say that I take a look at this frame right here, and this frame doesn't really give me that much information at the lowest exposure. Let's say even further that if you brought this down probably a stop, let's say just further down, something like that. That's probably what a 9th frame would look like in this instance. Keep in mind that more often than not, when you're working with HDR, you're going to have to take certain portions of original frames and mix them back in. So you'll see in these elements that you have right here, where you have these light fixtures and you have all of this texture kind of here, even though it's not something that you would immediately see in a difference inside of an HDR, you have this as source material that you can go ahead and you can overlay on top of the HDR image to get back some of those sections. Now, in this instance, you'll take a look. This is the finished HDR file. So you'll see here, it kind of looks a little right? Straight for flicker. And you'll see that some of this stuff, because of how the HDR was processed, just kind of looks a little weird. I don't like what that looks like. I don't like what this looks like right here. I'm gonna rely on some of those frames that I have in the series to do that. So when I have more frames, I have more source footage for me to go back to so that I can go, I'm gonna grab this, drop it as a layer, mask it back in. So in an instance like this, you can take a shot that goes from this and really kind of mask it in so that you start getting more details into it, right? That's blending one of those layers and bringing in the tone map file. Then you turn around, you contrast it, you finish. You see that some of this stuff right here looks a little bit of a mess. That's where I would go back and I would take a look at some of those super underexposed sections, mix all of that stuff together, and now you have a shot that you go, all right, well, this looks a lot better, right? So it's not just HDR. Those lower exposures that you have could be good footage for you to mix back into this file to make a much better image. So let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we've got more tips, more tricks, more tutorials, and some contest. Welcome back, everybody, for Photography Tips and Tricks. My name is RC. Now, I've got to show you something that I think is phenomenal. Recently, we just had here official tour photographer for Bon Jovi, Sports Illustrated photography. He's done an amazing amount of work, Mr. David Bergman. Now, David Bergman has also done some phenomenal stuff with something called a Gigapan. Take a look at this. Here we have this picture of Barack Obama at an inauguration, right? Seems pretty good. It's not bad. However, it's the amount of detail that is in these pictures that sells everything on this. See, there you are, right? Oh, well, let's just go ahead and take a look at the whole picture. Yeah, that's how big it is. This picture is humongous, and there's an amount of detail that can be captured with this. If you can do this with an inauguration, imagine what you can do with a landscape, with real estate images. Imagine what you can do with soaring cityscapes. That's something that's really, really nice. Watch that. I just want to show you something else. Like, watch this. Here, you want to see a picture? You can travel and zoom in. Look, there's a picture of somebody taking a picture right back at somebody else. Watch this. You want to look at somebody here, a Hawaii governor? You kind of zoom back out. Let's take a look over here. Pretty good. There he is. Looks pretty good. It looked cold, right? Come over here. You can zoom back out. So your ability to see all of this information in an amazing amount of detail. Let's take a look at the president's security. Zoom out. Oh, all the way up here at the top. And then go back to this one image. So your ability to be able to take a humongous shot with incredible detail is all possible with this thing called a Gigapan. If you want to see more on that kind of stuff, you can obviously go to this site, the B&H website. You can get one. For what you get, I think that this provides an incredible amount of stuff. Now, that said, in order for you to kind of work your way around it, you might want to listen to the guy who made this picture as well, Mr. David Bergman. So aside from Bon Jovi, aside from Sports Illustrated, he creates this stuff. Listen to this.
Hey, I'm David Bergman. I've got a tip about using the Gigapan. So normally when you shoot a panoramic image, you want to keep your exposure consistent throughout the whole image. The problem is when you have a frame that's has too much of a dynamic range, really bright brights and really dark darks, you might want to work that a little bit so that it's almost like an HDR image where you brighten up the darker parts and darken the brighter parts. So what I do sometimes, if I'm shooting an event where I've got some bright sky at the top, as I go up, I'll start shooting rows across, and I'll start at the bottom and work my way up. So as I get to that brighter part, you can slowly dial down your exposure to just darken. I wouldn't go more than about 1/3 of a stop on each row, but if you dial down just 1/3 of a stop as you go up towards the top, you get this nice sort of vignette along the top. Be careful when doing the stitch so that you don't see the individual squares, but if you do it very slowly and carefully, you might get a nice overall neutral density effect to that sky and make a really pleasing image.
Isn't that amazing? I spent tons of time playing around on the Gigapan site and looking at David Bergman's work, so much so that I think that he should be the website to watch for this week. Go over here, take a look at davidbergman.net. He's got some phenomenal stuff, photography, action, faces, places, and he's got an entire section dedicated to the Gigapan. So not only does he do all of this Bon Jovi stuff, you are going to want to see all of the other work that he does right over at davidbergman.net. Thank you so much for that. Now, we've got a contest. I want you to win this book, Food Photography and Lighting, and this is by Terry Campbell. So this is a book that's going to show you how to be able to make beautiful food images. So it can't be any simpler than that. Do you want to win this book? This is how you're going to do it. You're going to go over here. You're going to go to kelbytv.com. At this section here, you want to go to Photography Tips and Tricks. Click on that and find the episode that we're watching right now. That's episode 21. Once you find that episode, I want you to go all the way down to the bottom. I want you to go leave your name, your email, your website if you have one. Love to see it. And leave us a comment. Tell us an idea. Tell us what you want to see. Tell us what you think is good. Tell us what you think is bad. We want to hear from you. One of you guys is going to be picked, and you're going to win this book. Thank you so much to PeachPit for that. By the way, I have a deal for you. Go over to the PeachPit website. At the PeachPit website, you can save 40% off of this week's deal, which is plug-in with On1 software. This is an ebook. And you can get this ebook by going to the Kelby TV web, putting in the coupon code Kelby TV. The ebook is going to cost you $19.19, and this book is by the incomparable Nicole Young. Anyway, thanks so much, guys, for stopping by. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, this is your show. Send us your feedback. Tell us your tips, your tricks, your ideas, anything you want answers for right here on Photography Tips and Tricks. Take care.